bad happens, or that you're going to change your risk management procedures to be more in line with what we do. Normal insurance coverage, excess insurance, deductibles with excess insurance or reinsurance, or the traditional ways that we keep ourselves from taking a $600,000 hit. That has come right out of the general fund. That's unbelievable to us. In any case, it wouldn't happen if we privatized. And that's why we can look forward and say, can we continue to operate, provide services, pay our employees, and still make a few bucks, because we're not going to expose ourselves to those kinds of opportunities. So what we're proposing, and we recognize that there are 5 sites, and we're only talking about 2 of them. We're proposing that you direct staff to negotiate with us for what I might call a model contract that might serve as the basis to negotiate with the other major hauler in the county, and that they will have to, in fact, decide what it means to them, and obviously this thing will have to all hang together in order for it to work. We also recognize that one of your sites, Casper, is a co-owned site with the city of Fort Bragg, and if you were to decide for us to develop this model contract, you know, working with the Solid Waste Division staff, with the CEO's office, and what other members of your organization you think is appropriate, we would want to hear from the city of Fort Bragg so that we got their concerns into the model contract. Ultimately, we're not going to negotiate with the city of Fort Bragg. That will be your folks and the franchise hauler in that area. But we think it's very important that their voice be heard, because unless everyone is happy and everybody feels that they're on board on the same page, you have less chance of this being successful. So we'd like the idea of additional buyback centers in the rural stations, because in this kind of economy, a few bucks helps everybody. It raises the level of service that's not being provided now. If you don't privatize, I want to tell you, you're working on about a 5-year-old contract for the back door at the moment. Just recently, after months of waiting, we did get some cost of living relief for hauling the garbage from the back door of these 5 transfer stations to the land sites. But I can tell you, if you don't privatize, we're going to be out to bid, and in alternative 3, the $65,000 number, that's using a backdoor cost which is as stale as 5 years old. And so those costs are going to have to be paid for. We have essentially been subsidizing the county for the last couple of years. And, you know, nobody can do that in the private sector over a long period of time. So that savings doesn't assume what you're going to be facing if we have to go out to bid on the back door only. Obviously, the Solid Waste Division would continue oversight, landfill monitoring, and their other duties, and it's, in my opinion, and I think everybody believes, that government's got to check on the private sector. We don't want to have any situation where anybody gets to do what they want, when it's not appropriate for the ratepayer and for health, welfare, and safety. So I guess that pretty much wraps up our position. We haven't had a chance to look at the detail of the CEO's analysis, but we think that alternative 1 says raise rates. We don't like it. The ratepayer doesn't like it. Alternative 2 says cut services. We don't like it. The ratepayer doesn't like it. Garbage winds up in the street when you close the gate. And alternative 3, we think the $65,000 amount, a quick look, looks low. We think the savings is more than that. And we think, because of the way we do business, that we can cap the costs, hold the line with rates, protect ourselves in the South Coast area against what could be a really catastrophic event should Sonoma County close the gate at Annapolis. And we feel that surprises in the future are not something that you want to look forward to. You've got enough on your plate in every other area. So I'll be happy to answer questions or turn it over to Jerry for any comments that he would like to make.
Our CEO, I think, has got some comments.
I'd just like to add one more just note for consideration here is previously I had stated that $65,000 could go up, could go down, because we have not received the information from Empire Waste, and I would like to remind the board of that. Yes, Mr. Smith is probably right in the fact that that 65,000, could go, the savings could be much more if it could be much less. So I just wanted to remind the board of that, that their contract is due to, they have been relieved for, but they are planning on going out to bid on their hauling contract. Solid Waste Division is aware of that. This could increase cost, therefore the savings wouldn't be what we're talking about right now. However, we also don't know what the savings are from Empire Waste either.
Tom Mitchell, Chief Executive Officer. Just a couple of points of clarification from our General Services Director regarding the insurance. Solid Waste paid $208,000 in their premium, which was overall premium for liability, workman's compensation, another among a number of different things. We do have, at the time this loss occurred, we had what's called a stop loss of $200,000. So our maximum exposure was not $600,000, but our maximum exposure was $200,000. So our current stop loss is $150,000, and the way our internal program works, because we are self-insured, is when we have these losses, they're recovered over a period of time. It's not just solid waste that has these issues. We had a significant loss in our library operation a number of years ago, and it took a period of time for that loss to clear itself off the books. When you're self-insured versus buy insurance out in the market, you sometimes have these fluctuations that go back and forth. The reason this gets into the whole discussion is part of what we found when we started this project was the fact the general fund subsidy for next year goes down dramatically because you don't pay the same amount of insurance to the self-insured fund for next year. So that automatically gave us some savings in the general fund. I think there are a number of interesting concepts here, but after our staff has reviewed the proposal and in concert with solid waste division of the county and also with MSWA, I don't believe that any of us would recommend the current proposal for solid waste privatization. I think there's some interesting discussions that we could have centered around the South Coast Transfer Station and some ability to both perhaps reduce rates in that area based on the reduced hauling costs, and somehow that comes into concert with these other contracts that have expired. But I think the one area that we see some potential to continue having discussions is relating to the South Coast Transfer Station. The remainder of it, we are not recommending any change in staffing. We think we're appropriately staffed at this time in working with our solid waste department. And additionally, Supervisor Smith and Solid Waste and myself do have a meeting scheduled with Fort Bragg City Council, with the JCC, as it's called, and that's scheduled, I think, I believe it's March 5th is when we have that meeting scheduled. So we have some ongoing discussions that we're going to be having about solid waste. We have fulfilled, I think, the due diligence the board asked us to do. We're limited in our resources because of budgetary issues and so forth. So what we would look for some direction from the board is, where would you like to go us next with this project?
Supervisor McCowan?
The improvements that Solid Waste of Willits proposes to provide at the South Coast site, are those comparable to the Winsler and Kelly recommended improvements? Do they essentially accomplish the same thing?
The answer is yes. I would defer to Jerry in regard to the specifics. He's been out. He's talked to a contractor who has already built in Mendocino County similar kinds of sites, some slightly larger, some about the same size. But the short answer is yes. They would provide the services that study suggested would be needed.
And are the costs more or less in line with Winsler and Kelly?
The number that has been talked